When I was preparing some notes for what I was going to talk about today, I was thinking this is not really education or educational, but it kind of is. It's that borderline between philosophic and educational. And then I also realised that as much as I work with migrants and teaching migrants about Australia and how to better communicate and understand and integrate, what I'm going to talk about today is actually probably for your everyday Australian more than migrants. And the reason is because I'm going to talk about assumptions. So these are assuming something is how it is. It's about having a certain perception of the truth or reality. Now, I think migrants in some ways are better at this because they are already in a different place. They have already had their perceptions challenged just by the fact that they are living in a different country. Whereas many locals, many Australians, they haven't had that perception, that point of view, that perspective on the world challenged. And it can cause a lot of blind spots in really understanding and knowing the world around us. So I'm going to do a few examples for you and some ways to overcome that I often do with students. Now, the first thing to overcome assumptions is to experiment a little bit. So when you're watching some news for the first time, or maybe you might be listening to someone or reading something based on a certain perspective or history, you're learning something educational for this example. Now, we should experiment and go into that content that we're consuming, whatever it is, with an open mind. And so, first of all, that means that we have to go to the source, directly to the source. And when I say experiment, I mean go directly to the source without any assumptions in your mind, without having any commentary or anyone telling you about it before. Now, too often I see people, not necessarily migrants again, everyday Australians, people in general, going in and looking at information, but they've already looked into it before a little bit. They've looked into who that person is or what that news outlet, how do they see the world? What's their perspective? What is their bias? I often say to students, don't experiment, do experiment, but don't go in and listen to content or read something already knowing what it is about or who that person is. Now, I want to use an example because it's a bit hard to explain. It's actually easy to explain, but I'm probably making it hard to explain. So if I'm going to watch a news, so let's use example, Sky News. So I have a lot of friends and family who I will tell them something. I will be talking with them about an idea and they'll be like, oh, okay, they'll be listening along and understanding. And I'll say, oh, just look at this Sky News article. Sky News? Oh, that's right wing. No way, it's all garbage. Everything you just told me was a lie. Or everything you just told me is completely biased by that right-wing propaganda. And it might be, but also maybe it's not. And that's the experiment I mean when I say to experiment. Try going into something and going straight to the source. Don't go by what someone else has told you. Go straight to the source. Too often people bypass the source and go to a commentary on the source. And then that shapes their opinion. The second point is to constantly seek the truth. Constantly seek honesty, honest people, honest reporting, honest stories. Now, often as we're going along in our search for information and knowledge, we will find things that we might end up realizing that they weren't true, or they were only partly true. There was a part of it that was true, but maybe this part is not. And that's fine. That's part of learning. That's part of evolving. It's part of growing. And if you understand something to be the truth, and you see evidence to prove otherwise, that my beliefs is not the truth, then feel free to change your mind. You know, if you're on a train and you look out the window and you're looking at the stops and you realize you're on the wrong train, I should have hopped on that other train. It's okay to get off, get on the train going the other way back, go back to your destination and switch trains. It's okay. Once you realize you're going the wrong way, it's okay to stop and turn around. It doesn't mean you've failed, but it's better than continuing on the same track you were on. And thirdly, another way to challenge your assumptions is to remember things that you've heard over time that encourage you to actually question yourself and question what you know. Now, there's two things that I've heard that really ring out in my mind all the time. So the first is it's been attributed to the Buddha. I don't know if he said it, but let's just say the Buddha said this. So something along the lines like, whatever you think something to be, it is other than that. So effectively, it's like, it doesn't matter what you think. It doesn't matter what you think. The reality is completely different. Sometimes it's fun to assume that anyway. And that brings me on to the second point, the second phrase, the second saying that I've heard from Jordan Peterson when he was talking to someone many years ago. I heard this. But when you're having a debate with someone, or when you're listening to someone, or when you read something, when you get new information, when you're processing new information, this is critical thinking 101. Question yourself. What if they're right? Now, this is particularly powerful if you don't believe in something. If you hear something and suddenly you're like, that's not true. I don't believe it. It can't be correct coming from them. My Sky News example is a perfect analogy for this. If it's coming from that source, it has to be wrong. I know many people who've said that to me, almost exactly with those words. And I ask them, what if he or she is correct? Because sometimes they are. But even if they're not, it's an important part of critical thinking and truly understanding to ask that question. What happens if they are correct? Because then that opens up a whole new world of possibilities and awareness and understanding, which is crucial for us to really develop and move on in a positive, productive, and cohesive direction.